In September 1996, a young boy named Frank Obegi was born, unaware of the tumultuous path that lay ahead. From humble beginnings in the village of Bugwendo in Kisii, he showed early promise and ambition. By 2014, Frank had earned his place at Multimedia University, where he was pursuing a degree in information and communication technology. But beyond the classroom, a different Frank was emerging, one who was slowly cultivating an online presence, eager to carve out a name for himself in Kenya's fast-paced digital world. It was a world of influence, social media, and likes, a world where fame could come overnight. With every post, every tweet, Frank Obegi climbed the ranks of Kenyan social media influencers. But as the likes and followers grew, so did the temptations of a darker world, one that would eventually lead him and his friends down a dangerous road of deceit, fraud, and a chilling end that no one saw coming. This is the story of Frank Obegi, a tale of ambition, crime, and the dangerous pull of easy money. Frank Obegi was born on September 6, 1996, in the small, unassuming village of Bugwendo in Kisii County. As the second child in a family of three, he was raised by Evans Bowendo and Beatrice Nyachae, a couple whose love was a beacon of hope amidst the shadows of hardship. Their struggle to make ends meet was a daily reality, yet it was this very struggle that would ignite a fire within young Frank, a fire fueled by ambition and the desire to uplift not just himself, but his entire family. As a child, Frank Obegi often found himself captivated by the night sky. He dreamed of a brighter future, with each twinkling light seemed to whisper promises of possibility, beckoning him to strive for greatness. His parents, despite their limited resources, instilled in him values of perseverance and hard work. They often shared stories of their own unfulfilled dreams, and it was through these tales that Frank Obegi felt the weight of their aspirations resting on his young shoulders. Education became Frank's first significant step toward those dreams. In 2001, he began his academic journey at Lutheran Academy, where he learned the fundamentals of knowledge that would lay foundation for his future. By 2009, he had progressed to Dorcas Sigera Memorial Academy, where he sat for his Kenya Certificate of Primary Education. His determination continued to shine as he transitioned to Cardinal Otunga High School, where he completed his Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education, KCSE, in 2014. Upon graduating, Frank found himself at a crossroads, either to enter the hustle of adulthood or continue his education. Embracing the mantra that education is the key to success, he enrolled at Multimedia University to pursue a degree in Information and Communication Technology, ICT. This decision was both a promise to himself and a nod to his parents, who sacrificed so much for his future. However, life in campus was far from easy. Financial challenges loomed over Frank Obegi like dark clouds, threatening to block his path to success. Yet, true to his resilient spirit, he refused to let tough times define him. Instead, he embraced his creativity and strength, embarking on a journey to shape his identity in the burgeoning digital world. As Frank Obegi navigated the ups and downs of university life, he began to understand the true power of influence. In a world brimming with possibilities, he sought to find his place. He immersed himself in the digital world, updating his Google portfolio and exploring social media platforms, especially X, formerly Twitter. He was drawn to the idea of turning his passions into a source of income, eager to leverage the growing online opportunities that many of his peers were tapping into. However, road to success on Twitter was not a quick one. Recognizing the challenge, Frank Obegi adopted a bold strategy, one that would eventually set him apart. His approach was simple yet audacious. He began to meticulously curate the most popular tweets he could find, copying and pasting them as his own. It wasn't long before Kenyans on Twitter, known for their sharp eyes and unforgiving wit, caught on to his game. They started the hashtag #JLobegi, calling him out for plagiarism. Ironically, this only served to raise his profile further, thrusting him into the spotlight. By 2016, Frank was no longer just another voice in the digital crowd. He had become a recognizable figure, riding the wave of controversy into an unexpected realm of influence. With his social media presence growing more vibrant by the day, new opportunities began to open up for Frank Obegi. He was no longer simply retweeting other people's ideas. He had secured his place among Kenya's most notable influencers. From 2017 to 2019, Frank's influence on Twitter skyrocketed, and with it came a slew of exciting possibilities. His online persona connected him with influential personalities who saw his potential and offered him gigs in the influencer space. Collaborating with established names gave Frank visibility, and soon he was making appearances on popular TV channels like K24 and KUTV, further solidifying his reputation as a bigwig in Kenya's digital realm. But behind the likes, retweets, and growing number of followers, Frank found himself grappling with a harsh truth. The influencer lifestyle was far more unpredictable than it seemed. Sponsorships and paid campaigns, while glamorous on the surface, often came with instability. Each collaboration felt fleeting, a temporary moment of success that could vanish just as quickly as it had come. Anxiety about his financial future began to set in, and Frank knew he couldn't rely solely on the erratic nature of influencer work to sustain himself. In response to these uncertainties, Frank began to seek out reliable sources of income and made a strategic decision to pivot. He turned his attention to a growing opportunity among university students: academic writing. The field was booming, with students, both in Kenya and abroad, eager for assistance with their studies. Frank quickly adapted to this new avenue, using his sharp mind to craft essays, research papers, and assignments, tapping into a lucrative yet shadowy corner of the education sector. It was during this transition that Frank crossed paths with a man named Fred Obegi. Fred, a smooth-talking, seemingly legitimate merchant, claimed to sell academic writing accounts, offering students a way to join the booming trade. On the surface, Fred was living what many would call the soft life in Nairobi. After dropping out of Kenyatta University, he had undergone a transformation, flaunting a lifestyle that seemed to affirm the age-old adage, "Money changes everything." Frank Obegi, caught up in the excitement of new possibilities, was intrigued by the opportunities Fred presented. Little did he know, beneath Fred's polished exterior lurked a web of deceit. Unbeknownst to Frank Obegi, Fred and his two accomplices were scammers, preying on the ambitions of aspiring academic writers. They had duped many promising profitable ventures that led only to heartbreak and loss. Frank's involvement with Fred Obegi marked a dark turn in his journey, a stark reminder that not every opportunity shines with authenticity. But without hesitation, Frank Obegi plunged deeper into this murky world. He joined Fred in selling academic accounts, a move that seemed to align with his ambition for financial stability. Fred, seeing Obegi's potential, began to introduce him to the real business behind the scenes. Soon, Obegi was acquainted with Elijah Omeka, a smooth-talking PhD student from Kenyatta University, and Moses Nyachae, another student at the same institution. Elijah, though a PhD student, came from a relatively well-off family in Kisii and had mastered the art of deception. His silver tongue and charisma allowed him to manipulate and swindle women, earning enough money to buy himself a Toyota Prado and a Honda Vitz, and even build a home in Kamakis. Moses Nyachae, the second associate, brought with him a history marked by both opportunity and abandonment. After securing a scholarship to study in China, Moses returned to Kenya, only to defer his studies at Kenyatta University for reasons unknown. Struggling to sustain himself, he soon found solace in the murky world of scam activities. His partnership with Obegi and the others would soon mark the beginning of a complex and dangerous lifestyle. It was during nights out at Seasons, a well-known bar in Kasarani, that Moses and the rest of the crew introduced Obegi to their real game. Academic writing was just a front. Their true business was cryptocurrency fraud and credit card scamming. The allure of easy money and the luxury it afforded was undeniable. Without hesitation, Frank joined the group since his mission was to also get rich. He began learning the basics, but luckily the years Frank had spent online had armed him with knowledge that would prove invaluable to the squad. He was already familiar with cryptocurrency, how to create digital wallets, how to move funds anonymously, and how to conceal his location through VPNs and proxy servers. With this knowledge, Frank became an indispensable asset to the group. Suddenly, Frank Obegi's life took a dramatic turn. His social media, once a place for popular tweets and influencer work, now showcased snapshots of luxurious vacations on Kenya's coast, chartered flights, and expensive drinks. It was as if a new man had emerged, someone who had mastered the art of deception. His Instagram page was filled with images of beautiful sceneries, and his Twitter posts carried a sense of sarcasm that only his close circle would understand. In May of 2019, Frank, alongside one of his accomplices, pulled off a significant scam, duping a man named Hillary out of 240,000 Kenyan shillings by pretending to sell bots. Frank's audacity reached new heights as he boasted about the scam on his Facebook page, taunting those who might try to hold him accountable. However, Frank's wasn't getting enough money as he wished, and so he started examining other ideas that offered huge amount of money at a go. Soon enough, Frank Obegi eventually found his footing in three key areas of cybercrime: credit and debit card fraud, spear phishing, and cryptocurrency fraud. His first specialty was card scams. All he needed were the card numbers and the three-digit CSVs. Without even needing a PIN, he would link the details to his PayPal accounts, transferring money seamlessly and withdrawing it at will. His second venture was more technical: spear phishing. Frank Obegi and his group targeted companies in the US, replicating billing websites and email accounts, tricking accountants into paying large sums into accounts Frank set up in the US, using friends or relatives of acquaintances. They never knew that their accounts were part of an international money laundering scheme. But it was the third method that proved to be Frank's most dangerous: a fake cryptocurrency exchange platform. With promises of a 10% daily return, Frank and his team lured countless victims into investing. To lend credibility, they even allowed early investors to withdraw their returns, gaining trust from a growing pool of victims. Soon enough, the platform collapsed, and withdrawal requests went unanswered. It was yet another scam, one that would ultimately tighten the noose around Frank's criminal empire. Despite the increasing risks, Frank's wealth and lifestyle only seemed to flourish. His social media accounts turned into platforms for pseudo-motivational messages, urging followers to chase the kind of life he was leading. But behind the scenes, the pile of scam victims was growing, and whispers of Frank's fraud were spreading. Screenshots of his messages and complaints from victims began circulating online, with more and more people calling him out. By 2021, the consequences of his lifestyle finally caught up with him. One of his victims tracked him down at a joint in Kasarani, threatening his life. Frank, in the company of Moses Nyachae, narrowly escaped death, thanks to police intervention that saved them from the irate mob. The close call seemed to rattle him, leading Frank to retreat to his family home in Kisii for a while, where he laid low and claimed to his father that he was making commissions from selling airline tickets online. Despite this, Frank couldn't stay out of the limelight for long. He resurfaced on social media with a renewed presence, his cryptic posts urging followers to live a life they will remember. It was as if Frank Obegi knew his days of freedom were numbered, yet he pressed on, hoping that his skills in evasion would keep him safe from the tightening net of justice. In the months leading up to June 2022, Frank Obegi found himself entangled in yet another scam, one that would ultimately prove fatal. Allegedly, he and his group were involved in a scheme where a victim lost approximately 1 million Kenyan shillings. Unbeknownst to Frank Obegi and his associates, this was the final chapter of their illicit activities. On June 10th, Elijah Omeka, one of Frank's closest associates, left for Mombasa with his friends. He spent the entire weekend unwinding at the coast, indulging in the pleasures of life far removed from the pressures of his criminal dealings. By June 13th, Elijah had returned to Nairobi, but when Frank Obegi attempted to reach him, there was no response. Tried to reconnect, sensing something off, but his calls went unanswered. With Elijah unreachable, Obegi reached out to another member of the group, Fred Obere. They agreed to meet for drinks on June 14th, but Moses Nyachae, another associate, claimed to be busy at the time, further raising suspicion. Meanwhile, unknown to Frank Obegi and the rest of the group, Elijah had been kidnapped shortly after his return to Nairobi. This was the same day that Frank was last seen alive by his caretaker at his apartment in Kasarani. The tension in the air was thickening, but none of them could anticipate the horror that was about to unfold. By June 16th, Elijah's girlfriend, Doreen McKenna, grew concerned. She hadn't heard from Elijah for days. In her desperation, she reached out to Fred Obere, asking him to accompany her to Kasarani police station to file a missing persons report. Around the same time, Moses Nyachae informed Doreen that Frank Obegi's phone had also gone off, deepening the sense of dread. Moses, too, would vanish that very day, after picking up a parcel sent by his mother from Kisii. According to the bus company, Moses had collected the parcel around midday on June 16th before disappearing without a trace. The sense of danger lurking around the group was palpable, but no one could predict the grisly fate that awaited them. 5 days later, the unimaginable became a grim reality. 4 mutilated bodies were discovered in Kijabe Forest, bearing the signs of unspeakable torture. Their necks had been slashed, and their private parts mutilated, a testament to the brutality they had endured. Among the victims was John Jao, a known drug dealer and friend of Elijah, who had also been reported missing. It was clear that this was no ordinary murder, as it had the distinct feel of a deal gone sour or an act of revenge. The bodies sent shockwaves throughout the country, but the horror didn't end there. The next day, on June 20th, Fred Obere's body was found dumped in Kitengela, sealing the fate of the entire group. Sadly, what had started as a life of luxury, easy money, and carefree living had spiraled into a dark web of deceit, betrayal, and murder. The brutal deaths of Frank Obegi, Elijah Omeka, Moses Nyachae, and their associates served as a chilling reminder of the dangers that come with living on the wrong side of the law. The lavish lifestyle they had once flaunted had come crashing down in the most tragic and violent way possible.